Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk. Baseball, 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 baseball.
Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We got a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Greggo? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sake.
This is a cool night or what? Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
Hello and hoy hoy to you wherever you may be, to Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. It is time for another episode of Your Dark Companion. We are glad you are with us, no matter where you may be, no matter how you are picking up this podcast transmission. We're happy to have you today. I would be Mike Rhyner, and we've got some, though not all, of the crew. The indispensable ones, Ashley and Shoopy, are here. Mickey is here. Becca is not here today.
She's the real indispensable one, though.
Well, she calls the shots. Is that indispensable?
I think so, yeah.
I would say so, too. And she is not with us today, but have no fear. She will be back someday, somehow, somewhere along the line. This is the 25th of November. It is a Monday. This is Thanksgiving week. And we got a couple of podcasts in front of us, this being one of those. I believe we got another one set up for tomorrow as well. But let's don't worry about tomorrow. Let's deal with what's in front of us today. And what is in front of us today? We are joined once again by our longtime cohort and stalwart of Your Dark Companion. That is Greggo, the great Greggo, Greg the Hammer Williams.
Hello.
Hello.
And how are you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing just fine today.
We're off to a start.
You already made me lose my shit. Huh? Not even 2 minutes into this thing.
Kind of did half an
So
hour
you're
ago,
going to blame
too.
that on me?
Yeah.
Why? What'd I do?
You were just you, Greg.
No,
you were just you, and I can't stand it. I can't handle it. Now, you will know Greggo's done stuff with his mustache. A lot of people have talked about your mustache every time you've been on here.
Right.
And you have gone to some rather great lengths to get it doing what it's doing today.
You think they'll talk about it today?
What?
You think they'll talk about it
Yeah,
today?
I'm sure they will. They always do.
But see, speaking of Becca, this is all her idea. Because I was going to get rid of all of it. You know, because I got rid of my hair. Remember how long my hair was?
Yes.
Gone. Thank God. No more product I have to buy. Got tired of buying cream rinse. But I was gonna shave it all off. She goes, no, make it into like a handlebar. Well, that's like a month ago. And I'm like, okay, all right, I will. And then I had to save it for this. So enjoy it, because this is probably the only time I'll be sporting it.
I doubt that.
What do you think?
I like it.
A lot of maintenance, though.
It's a lot of maintenance, but it's worth it.
Is it?
I think so.
You think I can get the women with it?
Yeah, I think you can.
You think I can?
I
think
bet
women
bet
like
on
to.
that.
Think women like to swing on this mustache, Ashley? What do you think?
Wow.
Swinging on the handlebars?
That's kind of what they're there for, you know?
For grip.
For grip?
Yes.
I thought it was
Greggo is
supposed
here.
to be a
I mean,
seat.
yeah,
Greggo.
it's not about me.
But wait. We've got another guest today. And this is a guy that we know quite well. We've known him a long time over the years. We have never been at the same smaller place at the same time, although we were at the larger place at the same time. But I've been fascinated with his story for a long time because you talk about, people talk about my dark period, and I talk about it some, but I went through a period where I wasn't into much of nothing, I was just going along, wasn't watching no TV, wasn't paying much attention to sports, wasn't doing any music. I mean, I was just not doing any of the things that set my soul on fire. And that got dubbed as my dark period, not by me, but by others. And our other guest today had one of those too, except his was a good bit more consequential than mine ever was. You may remember him from his time at KLIF. There were probably a couple of other stops in there along the way. But he is the great Wally Lynn, and he is with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you, Walter?
Doing very well. Thank you, Mike. Yes, I've done some stuff with him in a little room.
Yeah.
But never with Ryan's.
Never with me.
Have our paths crossed.
That's right. Except in the hall.
That's right.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, what is life like for you these days?
Well, let's see. How do I put this?
And by the way, for everybody out there, no, we're not going to have a drug test off, okay? All right, we're not going to have that here, okay? We're not going to do that. I know that'd be a good idea if we went in there and
That'd
peed
be
in
a
a
great
cup.
idea.
Peed in a cup and see who positive. I know that'd be funny, but we're not going to do it, Groove.
We don't need
okay?
to do it.
I told you once, Groove. You came up with that idea, and I said no.
Yeah. What was the question again?
That wasn't the question.
Was that a question? No, what am I doing?
Just what are your days and nights like?
What's my scene like these
Yeah,
days?
what's your scene like?
Okay. Well, I am retarded. No, I'm not retarded. What's the word when you're not working anymore?
Retired, I believe.
Yeah, I'm retired.
Or unemployed. You can use either one.
Yeah,
I use them whatever, whatever's beneficial.
Yeah, I choose retired. Living off a pretty good pension from the radio days and some other sources of income. But living in the Deep Ellum Hood, loving life there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of history there for me personally, which we'll get into from the years that I worked there. And I went through a period where radio was a big deal up here. And then I took this little side job, and those two things traded places.
Yeah.
And we'll tell that little story about how all that unfolded, starting back at the KLIF studios.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s. Yeah.
Now, you were at KLIF for how long?
That's a good question. 15, 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
And you were, I believe the first time I met you, you were kind of like a young up-and-coming news guy for them or
Correct.
something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, I was part of the, hard to believe, but we had like a 7 or 8 member news staff at at our station. And that was in the days when Kevin McCarthy had his show, David Gold, Hitzkis was on in the mornings there.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I made the flip from news. They gave me a Saturday morning show. And here's some blanks that you guys can fill in for me. Skip Bayless worked at our station at one point. And
man, it's 6 o'clock.
I can't remember how he got from there to wherever he in the ticket,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I can't remember the order of how that all took place. How did that happen?
Well, I can't remember all of the Skip Bayless linear procedure because he bounced around quite a bit.
The domino started though when the Times Herald went out of business.
Yeah,
then he went from that to the fax. Remember,
Yeah.
he started that fax.
I remember that.
Where he would fax out his column, which was cutting edge at the time.
Yeah. Was he never at the morning news?
Yeah, he was at the morning news first, and then he left to the Times Herald.
Yeah.
Kind of that Blackie Sherrod deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he started doing the fax thing. And along the way, he had swims here and there on the radio, but he never really committed. Well, everything fell apart for him. I mean, and he was like totally out of shit. There was nowhere else for him to go. And then we started the ticket, and I was in charge of putting that together. And I had all my guys, but I didn't have a morning guy, and we needed a big name for the mornings.
So you plucked him from KLIF?
I think he was done at KLIF by then.
Yeah, it looks like there was a little bit of time in between. Looks like he was at KLIF maybe till 93.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of a dead period, and then got brought onto the ticket.
I know this. He was totally out of shit. And had we not come along then, I don't know what would happen. He probably would have just had to see if he could get going in some other market, but things always have a way for working out for that guy.
Okay. Until recently.
He is the Houdini of media.
Oh,
I mean, he gets out of more stuff.
Yeah.
Good gosh.
And man, that guy can talk his way into anything.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. What he does is he sidles up next to whoever the guy is, the guy at the top. He's not messing around with any program director or anything like that. He's going to the general manager, and if he can get to the owner, he's going there. And he sidles up to him and gives him this big mind blow about, I could tell our energy is the same. I could tell your mindset is exactly like mine. You're somebody that I want to get to know.
Lets everybody know.
Want to work with.
Lets everybody know he's a Vanderbilt graduate.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yes, he
That's
did.
how he does what he...
You went to a state university. I went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah. That's how he does what he does, and that's how he's been able to make his way all throughout this
He
thing.
weaseled his way in with Barry Switzer's family somehow.
Did he?
A daughter or something when Switzer had his swim through here. He was always taking those little turns through.
Man,
You know.
he's really amazing in that way. He's really amazing at being able to find his way into situations where he may or may not necessarily be wanted and get to wherever he has to get to in order to maximize those situations. It's unbelievable to watch.
I've just never seen anybody become that successful, that rich, being so universally despised.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was making sick money at FS1.
And do you know anybody that likes him? I tried to like him.
It's what, it's all hate
I
watching.
went out of my way to try to like him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did too, but all the time I knew what we were getting into. And I did it anyway. I could have done something else. I don't know what else, but I could have done something. But I did that. So
It's your fault.
yes.
No, if he hadn't done it, it might not have happened. No,
Yeah, that's true.
we got to keep.
Fair.
No, we have to keep him as part of the puzzle because
Yes.
he's part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Can't tell the story of the ticket without him.
Well, I just
That's
love that.
true. Very true.
Unfortunately.
I just love that the first day on the air when he's doing his big rant about how great the ticket's going to be, he teased that the show with Mike Rhyner and Greg Williams, The Hardline, is going to be so great because it's a mix of WBAP and classic rock. Like, who wouldn't love that?
Okay.
That was written
Yeah.
for him.
Who
Oh,
wouldn't-
yeah.
Rock me.
Who wouldn't see exactly how those things fit together perfectly?
Just magical chemistry.
But enough about him.
Enough.
Yeah, let's
Let's
get to
talk
Wally.
about- Let's talk about. Let's worry about those who are here,
All right.
not those who are not.
Okay. What else?
Well, I don't know. Let's go back to those KLIF days when you guys were over there, and I thought you guys were just kicking ass. I love that station.
Thank you.
I loved it from Norm in the morning. I even fought through, or I would try to fight through Dr. Lynn Weiss
Oh gosh, yeah, that midday show did a lot of flipping around.
Yeah, it was not exactly stable or listenable, but I always knew that on the other side was my conservative leader, the great David Gold.
Yes, sir.
And I really liked his show. I've been trying to get him to come on here, but I've been unsuccessful so far.
What the hell has he got going on? He won't come on with you.
Oh,
Yeah, he's retired.
What the hell's he
He's
got
not doing
going on?
anything.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, I know, but I just don't think he wants to do this. I don't think.
I see.
I just don't think he wants to do anything.
Really?
Yeah.
I respect that.
Which that's.
I
cool.
don't. Everybody should want to do something, Groobs.
Okay. You're right, Hammer.
I don't know. I had a period of doing nothing for a while, and I was worried about it and didn't think I could do it. But
I
you
never
know
really
what?
knew about your dark period. I never heard about that.
About my dark period.
Yeah.
What dark period? I've had several.
Okay.
The one you just described a minute ago, where you didn't want to do anything, you just kind of,
Okay,
it's your dark
so-
years.
Yeah. How about
The
when
first
was
dark
that? When
period
was
he's
that?
talking about is like the early 90s, before the ticket started. He wasn't listening to any current music or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
that was my big
Yeah.
dark period.
But I guess the more recent one would be after he retired from the ticket for a couple years and did nothing, as he says. So I
Yeah.
think that's the one you're asking
Okay,
about.
yeah, that's-
Yeah,
And I was around for none of them, really.
Right.
I guess so.
So,
And that ended with "I'm back, bitches."
Yeah, that did end with a bang. Hey, I'm back. Yeah, that ended with "I'm back, bitches," and all the bitches said, "And."
Yeah.
did you really think you were going to stay retired?
Yeah,
Seriously,
I did.
seriously.
I did.
Because, like everybody else, I was beyond shocked,
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't buy it for a second.
Well,
I just didn't.
Actually-
And here's why. Because I didn't think the audience would allow you to do that. And that's why you're doing this podcast. I mean, you're demanded.
no, I'm not demanded.
Oh, yeah. You're demanded.
I'm not demanded.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
you're
I'm doing this because I want to. I just want.
But you're providing a service because so many people like you, and they're not going to allow you to go away.
Well, that's great, and I appreciate that. And if you're enjoying it, I hope you subscribe on Patreon, and I hope that you watch it every time we turn something out. But
You just made everybody behind the scenes really happy.
You like doing
Finally
it. It's
did
like
He finally said he likes us.
it's like a professional golfer. What do you retire to? You're a golfer. You can't retire to golf.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a broadcast. What are you going to retire to?
Well,
I mean,
don't
we
know.
kind of forced him to do this.
I-
You and me, we just sat at the table and we said he had to do it.
well, whatever reason,
Yeah,
I'm
they
glad
did.
you're doing it.
They did.
Kept us off the streets.
I offered to give them a little finger if they'd let me not do it.
Oh.
But,
Ooh, that'd be the finger.
but I found that I was. I found that
Never mind.
I found that I was able to get out of the game and do nothing if I wanted to. And I was able to do that a lot easier than I thought it would be. That I actually could be retired if I wanted to, but I don't know. I felt like I still had a little gas left in the tank, so here we are.
Good deal. I'm glad.
This is where we're
I'm
burning
glad. You
that
got a lot
gas.
left, man.
And
Fun to talk to you.
Let me just
Fun
say.
to bug you.
Let me just say this
Fun to
too.
wear my cowboy hat over here.
I
You
just
hating it.
I just wanted to say that you two getting the band back together is one of the most kick-ass things that's happened in recent history
Never would have thought.
for broadcasters like me. Who just loved you guys. I always loved
Well,
you.
first of all, don't say that. The band back together.
Okay.
Because you're jinxing it. Okay.
Okay.
Let's not do anything to jinx this.
Okay.
We're sitting here.
Yeah, we're sitting here.
And we're
in-
talking.
We're in here.
Yes.
We're doing a thing. We could actually be civil. All the angst I used to have about Greggo is pretty much dissipated. I'm a little too old for that kind of thing. It's silly. And I'm a little bit too old for it. So one day I asked Greggo if he'd come in here and do this with me. He said yes, and okay, we play on. Now he is a occasional compadre, and we are able to get it going somewhat like we used to.
Why would we want to do it like we used to? Let's do it better or wiser.
Yeah,
Or weirder.
Yeah, or
See,
weirder.
that's the only thing frustrating, Wally, about not doing radio now is because I feel like right now, at age 64, about to be 65, that I would be better than at any point I've ever been. Any point.
Okay.
I'll bet you have that feeling kind of too.
Yeah, but the good news is you've got this outlet that allows you to do whatever it is that you want, say what you want, I guess go as long as you want, right?
Yeah.
We can
All
go
those
day.
good things that come with just doing it your way eventually over time, you know?
Have you
So there you
ever considered the possibility of a scene like this?
I have, and I actually have something sitting in my loft called a D10. It's a 52-inch screen that I can do split screen interviews with. I can record them and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was given to me by Pepsi. When COVID hit, Pepsi was having a lot of their employees work from home, and they gave them all these screens, right? And I happened to, a good friend of mine, his sister worked for Pepsi. Hey, you want this D10? I said, sure. So I'm going to put that in motion and start some kind of podcast. Some of it will be based on my high school and a lot of the people that I knew that went to my school that I would love to talk to. The great Gibby Haynes, you remember him?
Oh, yes.
But old surfers.
Would love to hear his scene. He was a really good basketball player in high school.
Love to talk to him about his daddy, Mr. Peppermint.
Jerry Haynes.
Yep. Good actor.
Who about fainted when I was a little kid, and he said happy birthday to me on TV. You know.
Nice.
Mr. Peppermint.
But yeah, there's some interesting people. I mean, we all have this, that, you know, people that you went to high school with. Another couple of guys invented the town of Buckingham. You know, the city of Buckingham.
Yeah.
They incorporated that area because there was no booze sales in Richardson. And they broke the bank by inventing a town known as Buckingham, okay?
Where the liquor flowed.
Where the liquor flowed, and their names were Mark Miller and C.W. Kendall. They were on the cover of D Magazine holding the world, you know, basically in a picture. So a lot of it. We all have interesting
C.W.
people.
Kendall is a name I know. I can't. He used to like book bands and stuff, didn't he?
I don't know.
Something like that?
Maybe a different
I
one.
think he did. But anyway.
That kind of stuff. That's on my agenda of continuing to work, right?
Yeah.
And then I play an instrument, and if you play an instrument, you have all the time in the world. You can learn new songs all the time.
Yeah.
Never ends.
And you get girls.
You get chicks.
Just like Greggo.
Can I get some water, Shoopy?
Of course.
Yeah, get him some water, Shoopy.
I got it. I got to do this.
Now, how are you going to get out of there?
Oh, my gosh.
Everything's happening.
Just turn Wally off for a minute.
I'll get him turned back on.
Giggity.
Oh, crap.
Giggity.
We're live.
I know.
Yeah, we are live. Hi.
Hello. And what
Everybody
is
who's
that?
watching this live.
You know, what does that mean? Live. I mean, life is live. You know, everybody walks
that
around
means-
live.
That means that there are going to be some things edited out of this thing. But right now, it's all out there.
Yeah, right this second.
We live in a live society. Everything's live. Everything. You're being filmed everywhere you go. You're being listened to. Everything. We're all live. There's no such thing as, no, we're not live now. We're always live.
Greggo, did you just talk about the Patriot Act pretty much?
And the
All right, now.
Stop, Ashley.
When Greggo comes to town, bad things happen.
Yes, we're live on Patreon right now. I've been told.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Much better.
So there you go. We are all watered. We are all fed, and we are ready to proceed.
Are we
are
fed?
professional.
And
What?
Are we
He
fed?
felt like 3 was enough of me.
Just in
enough for me.
case.
Not just one.
The,
yeah,
the
you got to have
X
more,
going around.
more
Yeah.
than one.
Figure if we need to share or
And you
anything
got
like
3,
that.
that's cool too.
Yeah. Oh.
would you bring
I
Wally
don't
some
think so.
treats?
No, they're cough drops.
Sit.
Let's see if I can fight through it.
Okay.
We always bring treats in here. Treats are us. All right, Wally, let's get into, let's start, unless you can find a better starting place, with how did you make your way out of the radio game?
Okay.
Is that a good place to start?
That's a great place to start. I made my way out when a guy came up to the station And Dan Halliburton said, we want you to interview this guy. So I interviewed this guy in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that I've got this business where I can stream a radio station on a computer. I said, that's interesting. And we hit a break, and we went back to this engineering room, and I said, okay, here's the 800 number. If you're listening, we go into engineering. That was in the dial-up days where you had to dial a number to get into the internet. He goes, yeah, that's Indiana, that's Pittsburgh, and I'm looking to this screen. And all these places are listening to us, and we take calls, and these people are saying, this is incredible. We're hearing Dallas, Texas on our computers, right? So I do the interview with him, wrap it up, and I told him, I said, I think you really got something here. And I said, here's my card. Call me if you need anything. And 6 months later, he calls me. And he says, how would you feel about running my sports department? I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, I'm taking this AudioNet thing to the next level. And so I went down to their offices in Deep Ellum, in a little tiny spot at 2727 Elm Street, right next to Pepe and Mitos, Mexican food place. And there were about 25, 30 employees, and I started, took the gig, and I was responsible for creating content.
Now you quit KLIF.
No. I was doing both.
Oh, you're doing both. Okay.
Right. So I'm working for Cuban during the day. I'm still doing my talk show at night.
Is the guy who came down there and showed all this to you Cuban?
That would be Mark Cuban.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now I'm working for him during the day. I'm doing my talk show at night. I've got a microphone flag that says KLIF AudioNet. Remember those three-sided microphone flags in the days? And I would take those. My value to him was to get the word out there on what AudioNet was and how it was working, and hey, people can listen to this on their computers, all that kind of stuff, right? So that was my day gig. And we went from that little space at 2727 Elm. Then we went to Taylor Street, a much larger spot. Then we grew again and had a warehouse on Crowdis that was 2 stories tall. And we probably had 300 employees.
Over how much time?
Over about 3 to 4 years, all this took place.
And so the whole time you're still on the radio.
I'm still on the radio, right.
Now, how did this go over with your radio bosses?
There were times where they'd say, hey, can you fill in the morning? And I was like, I kind of can't do it. Right. I'm kind of busy this week in the mornings. But, every once in a while, when Hitzkes was off or when Bennett was off as his sidekick, I would fill in for Bennett.
Yeah.
And over time, the scales just started tipping the other way for me, because we all knew that this was going to be a big, big deal. We had a feeling that this was going to be a really, really big deal. So much so that they started explaining to us, okay, you're going to get shares in the company. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to purchase these shares at a price, and then, it'll go public, and then you can sell them. And Mark did a really good job of teaching us how all of that worked.
Yeah.
Right? And so we all got shares of the company. And in 1999, it went public. And when it hit the market, it was the largest IPO in the history of Wall Street. We were all hoping that it would be somewhere around $10 a share when it opened, because all of us were in at $5 or less per share. It hit the market at $68 per share.
Goodness.
So on that day, on paper, everybody who worked for Mark was a millionaire.
Damn. That must have been a pretty heady time back then.
Yeah, it was. And one of the three, the COO was a guy named Jack Riggs, and he was up at the what is it? Is it the NASDAQ? New York Stock Exchange. That's where he was. He was up there when they, when it came out. Here's the price. He flies back to Dallas. Mark and Todd Wagner stay there. He lets everybody know, go to Deep Ellum, go to this place, all drinks on me. So there was a rather large celebration that night that it went public. And it was not done at $68 a share.
No.
Yeah.
It went up and up and up. Now, I was in a period when it opened on the market, I could not do anything with my shares for 6 months, which was the case for all the employees, because that first 6-month period is for the investors, for them to get in and get out and do what they want. But after 6 months, hello, yes, I would like to sell. And I sold and I sold and I spent a lot of money after that.
You made a lot
Made a lot of money.
and spent a lot.
And spent a lot of money. That's right.
What'd you spend on?
Well, first thing I did is I wrote a check for my house. Cleared that.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Then I went down to Classic BMW and wrote a check for a new Beamer.
Not quite as smart.
Not quite as smart, right?
Well, I don't know.
Well, you know, I wish I had a financial advisor to help me with this stuff back in those days. But then I made a good investment. I bought a ranch in Central Texas. And I bought 82 acres in a place called Spicewood, which is 30.
Marble Falls.
There you go. I used to grocery shop in Marble Falls. That's right.
Yeah. I know that.
But I bought 82 acres there with a house, 1,800 feet of creek. Bought a pontoon boat. Bought motorcycles. Bought four-wheeler. Went spending crazy. Held on to that for 5 years.
Which, the pontoon?
No, the ranch.
Oh,
The ranch.
oh, okay.
But it was a big playground, you know. I had concerts there. I hired bands to come play at my place. I had my 40th birthday 3 times during that period. I had a 40th birthday party when I was 39, 40, and 41.
It's kind of genius.
And everybody that came, wait a minute, how old are you, dude? Right?
So you bought 3 40th birthdays, huh? It's pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, the place in Spicewood was great. Like I said, I held on to it for 5 years. And then the market crashed. And after, I'm kind of losing some frame here, but the market crashed. Mark had sold to Yahoo by then. Yahoo ran it into the ground. And I got canned by Yahoo on Black Friday when 75% of the staff was let go. Because Yahoo didn't know what to do with it. Wow. That was a dark day in Deep Ellum.
That's a quick rise and a hard fall.
Yeah, let's see. That was 99, 2000 is when I hit the jackpot. And in 2005, the money started being an issue. That's when it was like, okay, I need to think about selling the ranch, you know, all these kind of things, and then put the wheels back in motion to maybe do something else. But when I bought the ranch, I also got a radio job in Austin. So I was working at ESPN Radio Austin, and they gave me the luxury of 3 days in studio, 2 days from home in Dallas. So I would drive down south, stay at my ranch, drive into Austin, do the show on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then drive back to Dallas for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Now, in addition to KLIF, you had a couple of other radio stops up this way in this market, didn't you?
After KLIF, I did the Fan for a year or two. 105.3.
Yeah.
And that's when they were the Cowboys' flagship station at that time. Did the pregame show with the great Charlie Waters. And the postgame show with Drew Pearson. That was a lot of fun. That only lasted about a year or two at the Fan before I'd kind of had enough.
Yeah.
that was when radio was going in the direction of, hey, you come on in and work. We're not going to really pay you much, but we sure could use you as a talent. And I did that for about a year or two.
Yeah.
And said, that's enough.
So what happened after that? After selling the ranch and everything?
Sold it in 2005, and then dabbled in some other things. I got into the coatings business for a while, floor coatings business. Me and my brothers were in a business for that for a few years. Didn't work out too well.
What is that?
A spray-on coating that you put on your
on
your garage floors and stuff like that. And we bought the rights to the Texas region, and I would go hit people and try to sign up dealers and that kind of stuff. So
Kind of
that was
a gig,
yeah,
more or less.
that wasn't a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't a lot of fun. The fun years were the Cuban years. And when he purchased the Mavericks, it was fun to be on top of that story, because I still had my talk show at the time. Richie Witt was a beat writer for the Telegram, okay?
Yeah.
And so he was feeding me information, and he was saying, hey, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. One day he's telling me, hey, looks like Perot's interested in selling. He's talking to David McDavid, who was on the list of people that were going to potentially buy the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day Richie calls me and he goes, there's a new name on the list. I said, who's that? He goes, your buddy. I said, Cuban wants to buy the Mavericks? He goes, that's what I'm hearing. And so time passes, and then I get the call from Richie, and Richie says, I heard he pulled the trigger. Can you call him? So I called him. I said, did you just buy the Mavericks? And he said, yeah, I did. And I'm kind of scared shitless. That's what he said to me, right? I said, okay, well, I'll be your kind of under the radar advisor on all things that you need to be wary of going into this purchase. And I said, number one, here, there are two guys in the media that you really, really don't want to piss off. That would be Dale Hansen and the great Randy Galloway. Mm-hmm. And I meant that from the TV and print standpoint.
Right.
So that's two people that you want to make sure are on your side, right? So he followed that advice for a while.
Yeah.
Then he decided that he could do things his own way, and he really didn't have to worry about much of anything. So he buys the Mavericks, and then he moved from a smaller house at Preston and Northwest Highway. I had to go over to his house a couple times to do some things. He never locked the front door. Said, hey, just go in and get this and get that and bring it down to the office. So I did that for him a few times. And
yeah, try that now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then once he sold and made all of his millions, he bought the house where he still is today, which is just on the other side of the tollway at Northwest Highway, right? And I was able to go over there shortly after he moved in. Went over there with Richie because he was writing, still covering the Mavericks. And we went over there, and he basically had no furniture yet. He had a sectional and a wiffle ball bat and some wiffle balls. And we walked into the house, and we said, what's up with your furniture? He goes, I guess I'm just going to buy all new stuff. What's up with the wiffle ball? I go, well, if you hit it to the second level, that's a home run. And he was showing us, basically his.
Oh, so he had a whole setup.
He had a playground. He had a playground in his backyard, and then in his backyard, he had a tennis court with a hoop. And he went back there and was shooting baskets, and Richie was interviewing him. And at one point, we looked at he's got a house back in the back, a guest house. We said, what are you doing with that? And he said, oh, Rodman's living there right now.
I remember those days.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that brief 3-week run that he had with the Mavericks?
Oh, yeah.
But it was a smart thing for him to do because they were horrible, and he needed to sell tickets, and that was in the back half of that season, and so he brought him in and put up with the headaches that were number 77. I think he was 77.
I think he was 70 because they wouldn't give him 69.
70. Okay, all right.
Seriously, that's what I remember reading, that Rodman wanted the number 69, but they wouldn't let him have that.
Right.
So they gave him 70.
So there was Rodman living in his guest house out back. And he's still in that house today.
I know I was at that game, his first game as a Mav, and afterwards was a circus. I mean, you had Entertainment Tonight there.
Oh.
You had so much national media. And then, he started putting on his girl blouses and everything and parading through there. And I've never seen a scene like that. And he was just loving all of it. And now if you do that, you're just normal. That's just normal now.
Yeah.
That's how all those NFL players dress now. Dress like clowns when they, go to the game.
Yeah.
But Rodman was dressed just like they were, and it was a huge
He was ahead of his time, man.
Boy, he was
Given that much.
He was so far ahead of his time. I mean, so far. I remember when thinking, my God, not only does he have a tattoo, he's got 2 tattoos.
And his hair's a
He's
different color.
crazy.
God,
All right, so you're making all this money with broadcast.com and living a pretty high life.
Yes.
It sounds
I
like.
blew through it.
Did you just have no regulator, or did anybody ever say to you, hey, you might want to tamp down on this a little bit?
No, nobody ever said that to me. I think that you can never really go wrong with land.
Yeah.
So the land purchase was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And I flipped that in 5 years and made a good number
You
in the
didn't
flip.
lose any money on that.
No,
Not 30 minutes from Austin.
Even with that crash.
Right.
You didn't. I bet you wish you had it now.
I can't imagine what it's worth now. I did go visit it after I sold it to a guy who built a mega mansion on it. And the house that I lived in, he turned that into a classic cars garage for his classic cars collection. So that was a kind of a painful time to go back and look at the place that I used to have and see what this guy did with it, because he really, really took it to another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you really like in love with the place and everything?
Yeah, and it was a 5-year run that I held it. And like I said, I had concerts there.
A lot of good times.
Yeah. Some of my good friends was a band named Cooter Graw, country band.
Yeah.
Pulled up in their bus, right? In their big, big bus. And I had a screened-in porch with a tin roof on top of it that was built for me by my in-laws who lived there. And they set up their steel, their guitars and everything, and just did a concert on our back patio, So we had a lot of good times out there. Paid a neighbor to mow my field to get the hay. And then I had a dear friend that I told you about before we started who used to run a construction company here in town.
Yeah.
And he came down there quite often because he loved the ranch so much. One day he goes, I think you need a tractor. Went and bought me a tractor. Went into Marble Falls and decided that I needed a tractor and bought me a tractor.
Had you ever driven one before?
I had not.
Did you know anything about buying a tractor?
I did not.
Just give me that one over there. Or
Yeah, we went
what's
in.
your
and
favorite?
Those Marble Falls tractor salespeople love seeing you coming.
their eyes lit up for sure.
But he
Wait a
said,
minute, you've never driven a tractor before?
he said, we'll take that one.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want this little one.
Yeah.
What you want is this air-conditioned one over here.
No, we didn't
With
go.
the
We didn't
CD
go.
player.
We didn't go the air conditioning route. The one that he bought was $28,000.
All right, now, were you with woman through this period?
Yeah, I was married. 22-year marriage.
What did your wife think about this? Because if I tried to do that, I remember what my wife would have thought about it. Did she offer up any kind of advice, shall we say?
No, I would say the answer is definitely a 0 no. She didn't care. You know, it was like she said, I said, hey, honey, we don't have a house payment anymore. Oh, that's awesome, right? And I think I want to buy a ranch. Oh, let's do it, right?
Did she go on a spending spree at all?
Not really, no.
Oh,
she was pretty happy. Just doing her thing and being the wife, and we raising 2 kids. So she was pretty happy with her scene through those years.
Right.
Yeah.
So where did things start to turn for you? Where did things start to get away?
Well, let's see. When the market crashed in 05, then I had to flip the property, right? And then through that next 4 to 5 year period, my marriage ended in 2010. So that 5 to 10 period was a recovery period that, quite frankly, just didn't go very well, right?
Yeah.
Because the money ran out, the ranch had been sold, those kind of things. The marriage ended. So from 2010 on, I was in that start all over and rebuild lifestyle from that point forward.
And how did that go?
It was rough for a while. Yeah, I had some tough years. Richie Witt was there to help me through a lot of it. Mm-hmm. He's a dear friend of mine, always will be. He needs to be on the show at some point with you guys.
Would love to have him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he was there and helped me through a rough period. It was a very rough period for me. And I clawed my way back into being a person who felt good about themselves because I'd hit bottom, climbed my way out of that. And now I'm as happy as a clam being retired and living the good life in Deep Ellum. I don't spend much money, right? I'm in love with my keyboard and my good friends. You know, the great Mike Schwedler lives down the hall from me, who runs the Majestic Theater.
Yes, sir.
He's become a good friend, and also I've got some good friends in the building. I've got a lady friend down the hall who plays the harp and the guitar, and she gives guitar lessons. So you find those people in your new place that you kind of gravitate toward, and try to figure things out from there. But yeah, I'm very happy at where I am right now. In my
That's
life.
great.
Yeah,
I remember hearing tales about your dark period, shall we say?
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe them and didn't believe them because even though we never worked together and I didn't know you, just terribly well and everything, but you always seemed like a really squared away guy. You always seemed like a really together cat. And I thought you always did good work. And it was just really hard for me to get my head around the things people were telling me about the state that you were in.
Yeah, I get it. And life hit me hard there from 05 to 2010. I lost one of my best friends, the guy who bought me the tractor. I lost him in 2008. And then my marriage ended in 2010. So that was a very, very rough time in my life. And I'm glad that it's very much in the rearview mirror now. You know what I'm saying?
People told me you were like on the streets and stuff.
Yeah, I was homeless. Yeah.
Everybody has them, and I know you remember it. Hopefully you'll share it. What was your lowest moment? I know you remember it.
Living at the Salvation Army.
Anything specific?
Because I took a job making $10 an hour painting houses.
Because those places have rules, and people don't like rules.
No. There was all sorts of checks on your activities.
Yeah, they don't like rules at those homeless places.
But yeah, I took a job painting houses for $10 an hour. Yeah.
How'd you pull out of this?
A lot of help from my family, my brothers and my sister. They helped me through that. I was also fortunate to be, this is like God looking after you. I was an heir to mineral rights from my grandfather. And we stumbled upon this. And my brother came to me one day and said, "Hey, here's a check for you." I said, "What's this for?" He said, "It's for mineral rights that were left from your grandfather, mineral rights in Kentucky." I'm like, "What?" And that helped me through my dark period. I mean, I just look back a lot at the things that have happened. There were low points. There were a lot of low points along the way, but it was always like, how did I wiggle out of that? It's like, damn, I did it again. Right? I kept saying, somebody's watching over me, because every time I'm thinking that nothing good's happening, the worm always turned.
Did that kind of help you during those dark periods?
Oh,
where
yeah.
You kind of knew, like, somehow you're going to find a way out.
Yeah. I kept going, how did this happen? What's going on? How is it when I think I'm down for the count, something happens and something pops up on my radar that gives me new hope at what I'm doing? And the good news, I think, out of all of this is that I was at that point where I had a ton of money. Boy, you find out real quick who your real friends are at times like that.
Oh, I'll bet. I'll bet.
For sure. So I went there, did that, and now I'm back at this place where I'm extremely comfortable in my own skin. I've got everything that I need. I live cheap, but I'm happy as a clown. And you can't beat that with a stick.
It's impressive how matter of fact you are with all of it, where it's kind of like, yeah, I got through it, I lived it, but you're not. I know some people when they're recalling some of the stories and memories and all that, it can, you can tell that there's still a pain there or an embarrassment, and you're just kind of like, no, this is just kind of how my life went.
Once you're out the backside, it's like, okay, I'm in a good place now, and I've had more than one person tell me that I need to do a book about my life, because it's been so up and down, the crazy stuff that I've been through.
Yeah.
So
I'd read that.
That's a possibility. Maybe I'll do that at some point.
Well, I guess you come out of it and you see where you've been, you see where you are, and even if where you are is not where you once were back before any of that happened, you're still really, really glad to be there.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, for sure. It's like I said, you really know who your friends are, the ones that are there with you in the tough times. Richie Witt tops that list.
Yeah.
He was there for me more than pretty much anybody.
Great dude.
Yeah.
I regret every day I got him fired. Every single day.
You got him fired.
Oh, yeah. I got him fired. And I hate it, and I regret it to this day.
There's a
Just
little bit of
being
history
me. Just being me, and just not caring and being an asshole. I knew I was going to get fired. Yeah. I mean, I was up for a contract. I was going to get fired, but then I just went and took him with me, and I'll never get over that.
Well,
that's one of the things in this business I will never regret. I don't mind me getting fired.
Yeah, no, but know this. I mean, Richie's done a really good job of reinventing himself. I know for a fact that right now he's ghostwriting a book for somebody. And it's like those kind of things always. And
he's always been good at what he did.
He's one of the
hell of a writer.
Yeah, he's one of the last really journalists.
Mm-hmm.
He is a sports journalist. He is. And there aren't very many of those left in the world.
Yeah, if he gets a chance to go long form, it's 100% hit rate. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that wits end that unfortunately got cut back from weekly to a monthly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Recently, and I always told him I told him I was pissed when it wasn't a weekly thing.
And one of the hardest workers I've ever seen in this business. That dude worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
Worked hard.
Yeah. Always had a lot of respect for him. Even when he was going up against us.
We weren't going up against you.
I'll tell you what was a weird day.
We weren't going up against you.
When you guys were going up against Leon and I.
We crushed you. Admit it. I want you to admit it right now that we.
What did I say to you, Rhyner, before he got here? What did I tell you? I said you eventually crushed us.
Yeah, he did tell me that.
But I'll tell you what was funny. This was back when KLIF was over here and the ticket was over here, and we would get these memos all the time. Way to go! You beat the evil empire again. This, we would get these ratings comparisons with the ticket. I mean, our bosses basically painted you guys as
that's because you
evil.
That's because you had Sharon Brown over there finding every bit of good news she could and putting it together.
Sharon Brown, yeah.
So we were thought of as the evil empire, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'd get memos saying, here are your numbers, here are their numbers. You guys are doing great. We got them here. We got them here. And then lo and behold, the day comes where we get called in and told, well, we just bought the ticket.
Golly.
And the holy shits that went around that room that day.
Boy, I could only imagine.
And little did you know that we were all thinking, well, we're fired.
Yeah.
We're done.
You thought you were done?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me? After they announced that?
But you guys were kicking us in the ratings.
Didn't
at that
matter.
point.
We thought that they bought us to kill us.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
To make
we were
things,
done.
To make things easier for you guys.
To flip it, you mean?
Yeah, to change the format for sure. That they were going to buy us to change the format, and then I don't know, maybe keep it, maybe not.
And one
But
thing
we thought that they bought us to kill us.
And one thing was for sure, he and I were gone. We were the first ones out the door.
Stuff. This falls under the category of stuff I would have never freaking imagined. That after our stations came together, you thought you guys were gone?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Some of the longest faces ever at the ticket.
Oh my
that day.
gosh.
Because was that 1996 or so?
It took time for us to
You didn't know that?
our head
Hell no, I didn't know
that it was not going to be that way. In fact, sometime after the fact, I was talking to Dan Bennett one day. I was in his office talking to him about something, and that somehow came up. And I told him that, we all thought that when you guys bought us, you were going to kill us. And he went, what?
I was in that meeting with you that day.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Then you remember this.
He goes, we were one of the reasons they did buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We thought that they were. He just said, why would we want to do that?
Fire y'all. Fire y'all.
Yeah,
What?
right.
Who
Well,
told
y'all
you
were
that?
paranoid, dude.
Oh, my God. You have no idea.
We just thought that KLIF was, his toy, his baby boys and everything. And he was going to do whatever he could to clear the way for them. But
put it like this. After that meeting was over and Halliburton and Bennett came down there, and Rhines, who has the best poker face in the world, he doesn't give anything away, and he doesn't, there's no fear-mongering. And I remember looking at him and goes, are we okay? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay. Let me go work on that resume. Let me go get that resume tape right now. Because if Rhines is concerned about it, we're done.
Right.
Well, I mean, once I saw that look on Dan's face and just how incredulous that whole idea was to him, then I started to think, well, maybe you got this wrong. Maybe they didn't buy us to kill us. And he was just going, why would we want to do that?
Right.
But
very true.
Man,
that was some dark days, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a pretty hairy time when we started hearing that, excuse me, that was going to happen.
And of course, the exact opposite of what you guys feared happened. Is I was telling Rhines earlier, I was up at the Hooters in Plano doing a show called The Tight Ends at Hooters with David LaFleur and Eric Bjornson.
That's awesome.
And my program director, Steve Conrad, after the show walks in and says, you don't need to come into the office tomorrow. We're letting you go. Jeez. And that is when Mr. Hitzkes flipped and went to the ticket. And they blew up.
Very reluctantly.
They blew up. They blew up
What
KLIF.
about the vulgarity, Rhines? What about the vulgarity?
Yeah, Norm came kicking and screaming. Believe me.
Norm didn't like ticket
I
vulgarity.
remember Gordo make his fake Norm
Oh my god.
with Andy Panda in the car. All those bits.
You know, the irony of the whole deal is we thought the worst possible company bought us. And little did we know that the best possible company bought us.
Okay.
I mean,
Man, those
Susquehanna.
were the best days that I had in the game. And everybody that I've ever talked to about that says the same, that their time with Susquehanna was as good as it got.
Right. Yeah. Hey, Groobs, I remember.
Sir.
I think this was played on the air, and it was Hitzkus calling you.
Oh,
and he
after
had
his
just
surgery? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was still his intern.
Tell that story if
oh
you
my
would.
gosh. Yeah, 2003-ish, when I was interning for Norm, he had to go in and get a tumor removed from his spine. Big deal, big whole thing. Obviously, sedated and all that to get through it. But he saw that at some point earlier in that day, I tried to reach him before the surgery, didn't time out, or he just, wasn't looking at his phone because he barely knew how to use it. But he calls me right after his surgery pretty much. I somehow missed it. I might have been working a board shift or something, but I get a heavily sedated Norm, saying that he's sorry he missed my call, but the surgery went well, and, just clearly just woken up from the surgery. And yeah, and at the very end, he, tried to say something like, tell your lovely family I say hello and all that, because he got to know my parents, my brother and sister, and, become family
I think
friends.
you played it on the air.
Oh, I absolutely did. At that time, I wasn't super considerate of privacy laws and stuff like that, because I was 18, I believe, at the time. And yeah, but that's where if anyone
We
listening,
didn't worry about things like that.
yeah, we didn't care too much about it. And thankfully, he was great about it. And part of my reason of even putting it on the air was because Frito put his call from Norm on the air after the surgery. But mine took off, and that's where, any longtime P1s, if they ever heard satellite loophole, that's where it came from, is Norm trying to say, tell your lovely family I said hello. And Gordon took it and ran with his, drugged up Norm saying satellite loophole.
So funny.
But the thing is, Groobs knew halfway through that voicemail he was playing it.
I knew
Halfway
that there
through.
might have been some gold there. And yeah, especially since I wasn't.
He thought, now where do I work? Oh, the ticket. Oh, yeah, I'm required.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
like
yeah,
I think
that's
I was
gonna be
actually
played.
running a board shift, maybe for the P1 Wild Ass Circus, and yeah, Mike Turley, the producer for the show, somehow that got brought up during a break. He's like, "Is it still on your phone?" And we immediately ran into a production room, grabbed it off the phone, and
See, I can't imagine.
still have people
And I
reference
bet
it.
you think about this too, Wally. I can't imagine doing a radio program like we did with technology of now, of what we could do. I mean,
It opens up some possibilities. I can tell you that. Getting back
we
in
did
after-
really good with what we had and even went beyond. But now, can you imagine? I don't know if it'd be as good. To be honest.
Well, I'll say you guys were cutting edge with the way that you guys used drops and things like that. I mean, you guys were so far ahead of the game.
Expo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just had him in last week.
And just remember,
The guy that was hanging around Dallas a little bit.
That's right.
when he first started, Expo had to pull those carts and put a cart in and fire it off.
That still floors me that they were
Yeah.
able to do it.
So every
and
time
be
you heard-
remotely good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was so good at doing it.
Yeah.
You guys had him on recently, right?
We did.
did.
Had him on last week.
We did.
Yeah.
It was awesome. He's the reason I got into all this crap. So
All right.
thank you, Expo.
That's funny.
Or
He was
damn
very
it, Expo.
undervalued, underrated and undervalued back
I got a
then.
question for you, Greggo. Mm-hmm. You ever thought about suing Jim Adler?
I had it before he did.
Hell yeah, you did.
But yeah, he just kind of took that and ran. A lot more successful than me, too. A lot more.
Well, this is the Texas
You know,
Hammer. This is the Texas Hammer.
You know, I did commercials with him for 1 year. Remember that, Ron? When I did those?
I didn't know
I
that.
did. Yeah, I did them for 1 year, and then I was more popular than he was, and you know,
Can't have that.
everybody calling his office wanting to talk to me. And they told me that. They seriously told me that. Yeah.
Well, if you ever want to go after him, call Frankel and Frankel at 817 or 214-333.
I'm particular about that Abbott dude and his hot ass daughter.
Ben Abbott. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was just thinking that Jim Adler, he's got nothing on you.
No.
You're the Texas Hammer.
And there was another one too. There was another one that I did. God, who was it, Ron? The other one that I did. The other lawyer. Remember?
No.
Oh
I don't.
gosh, he died of an overdose.
Oh,
Long Car.
David. That's right. David Longcar. That's right.
Brian Long Car.
Brian Longcar.
Yeah.
So memorable.
He died of an overdose?
Yeah.
Found him in his car.
allegedly. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. He was full throttle. Very full throttle.
I got to do a hat change for my sponsors.
Okay, do a hat change.
I was gonna say, you've been wearing that hat for a while.
And then I got a story about this one.
Okay. He's gone from a green
All right,
hall.
groups, you didn't tell me that we're supposed to bring props.
Well,
I mean,
you know,
Wally brought his own.
yeah,
I didn't know either.
I didn't do my concert calendar.
I mean, we can.
You're
might have to
technically
do
your
that.
own prop right now.
Yeah, I got all.
I was gonna say, the mustache is your prop.
Yeah, we need to do
my
a real
prop
quick
mustache.
concert
Okay,
calendar
Well, let's do it.
because it ends with a little a nugget that I needed to share with you guys.
Okay. Well, let's run it down.
Okay,
I got your music.
so this is the Green Hall concert calendar for the month of December. Aaron Watson this Friday and Saturday.
Heard of him?
American Aquarium on the 6th.
Now, what the hell is that?
I'm not sure. I just have a cool name. I'm not sure. Django Walker on the 7th. Wade Bowen on the 13th and 14th. Asleep at the Wheel on the 22nd.
Are they still around?
They are.
Still going.
Is Ray Benson still alive?
Yeah, he's still around.
Saw him at Longhorn
Yeah.
about a year ago. They're still great.
Corey Morrow on the 27th. Max Stalling on the 28th. The great Pat Green on New Year's. He takes that spot. The Mavericks had done that show for the last couple of years.
And now it's Pat Green, huh?
Pat Green's got the New Year's show. Lyle Lovett, acoustic, 2.5 and 2.6.
He's got a large band.
Yes, he does. He was just at the Majestic recently, too. Big Head Todd and the Monsters on April 13th. Okay.
Still
That's
great.
a little bit outside the bounds of
Yeah.
Green Hall.
And that takes me to the sad note that I wanted to share with you guys was the passing of an Austin Blues icon on Friday. And that was the great Tony Price. I don't know if you guys ever knew anything about her, but she had a regular gig at the Continental Club for years, Tuesdays at the Continental.
On Congress, South
That's right.
Congress.
Saw her several
right.
times.
That was a place that gave rise to Jimmy,
Yeah.
Stevie Ray, all of them.
I guarantee she knew Stevie because she was in that blue. She did. She played Antone's a lot, and she played the Continental. She hung out with Marsha Ball and Angela Straley.
Yeah.
Were two names that, and she had an aneurysm, and she died on Friday the 22nd. So I wanted to slip that note in there because I was a big fan of Tony's and went to see her at the Continental one time, and she would take her. I mean, she was hard of living. She would do shots of Jack Daniels during her shows. And she took a break and she went out back, and I went back there to say hi to her and just tell her how much I appreciated her music. And she proceeds to hand me what they call a funny cigarette. Right? I'm not sure what that is. Groups, do you know?
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know. But, you know, that was
Heard
her.
of 'em.
Yeah, but that was her deal, you know. She lived hard. Her last show of note recently was in August at the Devil's Backbone Tavern, which is
It's a great name.
out Ranch Road 12. So there's your concert calendar for Green Hall, brought to you in part by the Cotton Gin, which is where I got this hat, which is right across the street from the hall. You guys ever been to Green?
Oh.
Yeah.
The grist mill? It's a great place to eat.
Yes, sir.
Love that.
Yeah. I think I saw the aforementioned Marcia Ball.
Did
Last
you?
time I saw her was there.
Okay.
I used to see her all the time up here back in the day at the original, not the more fabled one, but the original Mother Blues. She would play there.
I saw
thought she was
Willie
great.
and Waylon and Jerry Jeff Walker play there.
Hey, now. Really?
Yes.
I saw Willie. Saw Chris Isaac there. Didn't have a ticket. Right? So I went down there and I said, hey, can I speak to the manager, of Chris's manager? And this was when a buddy of mine named Ronnie Davis, I don't know if you remember Ronnie Davis. He used to work for the Mavericks. He had this idea of musician trading cards, right? And so I went and I sat down with his manager and I said, hey, I've got a friend who's getting this little thing off the ground and wanted to know if you had an interest in letting Chris Isaac be a part of this, and he would autograph a few and blah, 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 blah. And by the way, could you put me on the guest list? And he did, so I got in to see him free. I mean, I drove from Dallas to Green for that and got to see the great Chris Isaac for free at Green Hall.
That's pretty good.
I've always loved that town. That's such a cool little town.
Speaking of concerts, back when I was at Broadcast, everybody wanted a piece of us because we were the window to the world for first just audio and then video. In fact, we crashed the internet with the first video event that we did, which was a Victoria's Secret runway show. But all these musical artists wanted to get their exposure on the internet. So we'd be at work and they'd come over the PA and they'd say, attention, people, Marshall Crenshaw will be playing in the foyer in 10 minutes. And we're like, Marshall Crenshaw, right? And among others that came through, the Bangles, Jimmy Dale Gilmore. I got help from other broadcast employees.
And they all played in the broadcast.com?
At lunch. They just come down to the foyer and everybody just bring their lunch and sit and watch them.
Man, I'd love to see the Bengals like that.
Yeah. Matthew Sweet. I don't know anything about him. Rodney Crowell.
Oh, God.
Great Rodney
Really?
Crowell.
Yeah. Isn't he married to Johnny Cash's daughter?
Yeah, well, he was.
That one I
think
don't
that's-
know. Slobberbone.
Anything.
Slobberbone's awesome.
You heard of them?
Oh, yeah.
They did a show.
Yeah.
Bob Schneider.
Best.
The Groobies.
Pretty great name. Yeah.
That was Susan Gibson who wrote Wide Open Spaces. She was the front for them, and then the Dixie Chicks, of course, made that a hit. And Ben Queller. And the big dog was a guy who became a huge fan of AudioNet, so much so that he released a record with just us that was available online, right?
This is early days. I mean,
This was AudioNet.
Yeah.
This is before we were broadcast.
Now, it started as broadcast.com, right?
Started as AudioNet. We were audio only.
Okay. And then it went to broadcast.com.
We were waiting for the pipeline to get big enough to carry video, and then as time passed, that whole situation
this was barely wireless time, right?
90s.
Most everything was still hardwired, right?
Dial-up 90s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, isn't it fun to get in on shit at the cutting edge when there are no rules?
It was the wild, wild west.
Yes. You make them up as you go along.
Right. Absolutely.
Man, that's so great.
But this guy, he released a record with us and us only, and it was called Tales Out of Luck. Got a guess?
Tales Out of Luck.
He's got an imaginary town called Luck, Texas.
Oh, Willie Nelson.
Dang.
The great Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Luck, Texas.
Not only did he release a record with us, but a fellow who had a good relationship with him said, I'd like to come up there and see that place where you guys work. So Willie Nelson comes up on his tour bus, parks that thing, comes in, and does a private concert for us. It was just him and his sister on keyboards.
Bobby.
Yeah, there you go. And I emceed it. I just said, hey, here's Willie and blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, you got Trigger there. Can I hold it? And he said, hell no, you can't touch it. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Willie Nelson. Willie did a free show for us just for the employees. I mean, that's how crazy the times were there. I mean, we were making it up as we were going along because, like I said,
I know the feeling.
It was
We
the
know the
wild,
feeling,
wild
Ryan.
west.
Yes, we do.
Here's another funny one. The operations manager one day comes over to me and goes, I had to go talk to him at his desk, and he goes, I'm not really clear what you do here.
That's a good place to be. That is a damn good place to be.
It kind of is. So I said, okay, Kevin. I said, let me go back to my desk and get some stuff. So I go back to my desk to show him this list of things I was working on. And so I get up and I go back, and there are 15 people in a line waiting to talk to him. So I said, F it. I mean, that's the way things went. Like the operations manager would constantly have a line of people. Hey, what do I do about this? What do we do about this? What do we do about that? What do we do? And it was chaos. It was pandemonium at that place because we were reinventing the wheel.
Every problem you solved created 10 more problems.
Yes, it did.
And I can't imagine. I mean, digging up more snakes than you can kill, Grooves.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Then they'll start biting you.
I'll tell you, here's
Well, I
another
bet
good.
that's a time
Oh,
of your
so
life you
fun.
wouldn't take anything.
Oh my
for.
gosh, how fun!
That's why I said, can you see now how radio was second fiddle for me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, living in this crazy, crazy world, making all that was going to make all this kind of money. Here's another good one, and I've had this argument with a fellow broadcaster. I went to these two engineers at our place, and I said, hey, is there a way I could call a number, wait for a tone, and then just leave a message, and then we post that as an audio file on the web? And this guy named Richard Pack said, let me work on it. 6 weeks later, he says, okay, we got it. So he's giving me instructions on what to do, and I'd call this number, and then I'd start talking, and then I would hang up. Then I would go in on the back end, and it was HTTP and just a bunch of numbers and letters. I would give it a title, right? Then it was posted on the internet as the Reebok Cowboys Report, right? Where you could click and listen whenever you wanted and get the news of the Cowboys on that day, right? Reebok didn't pay me money.
But they gave you merchandise.
Boy, did they ever.
The great Kevin Healy.
The great Kevin Healy. Yes, that's right.
I've still got stuff. I still have brand new stuff from Reebok.
Hey, I would go, you know this probably. I get 10 pair every time I go down.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He used to send me and Ryan's just a giant box. Remember that, Ryan?
Oh,
just
yeah.
a giant
Oh, yeah.
box. And it had everything in it. And he and I would go in there and hog the good stuff and then throw the rest of the stuff to the peasants. Right. You guys go in here and sift through this. And it was, like $100 pair of shoes and $50 golf shirts,
I was a pretty popular uncle at that time because I would just give them to my nephews.
I remember those good Reebok days.
God, those were great days.
It's so weird because, we're sitting here talking about breaking rules, Ron, and you and I know about that from radio, where we broke the radio rules and then morphed right into you, Wally, because, I hear people, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and people talking, he was one of the early podcasters. He started in 2011. I'm thinking, well, Wally Lynn, he started way before then.
I'm glad you mentioned that
because you
because
are the genesis of it.
Thank you, because that's the argument that I had with one of our fellow broadcasters. I said, buddy, I invented the freaking podcast. I did the first.
Now, I don't know. Now, let's not go that far.
Okay.
Let's not go that far.
Click, hear, and listen on demand. Is that not a podcast?
But you have to invent the name.
Actually,
you
this
have to invent
sounds
the name.
like what I was doing at GTE On Call in the 90s.
Oh, yes. GTE On Call.
Where if you missed that one score you had a bet on, you had to listen to Ryan's go all through it again. Not that I use it for gambling person.
Of course not.
God.
No.
What
Don't
hat do
gamble,
I have
kids.
on? Oh, my Dallas Fire Department. I got a story.
But that had to be fun because there had to be some absolute shysters that come through there in the early days of the internet. Just investors, and you've got suddenly you've just got an abundance of venture capitalist money just slinging it everywhere, and pretty soon it goes from Mark Cuban having this one little, first publicly held internet company to Facebook and Google. Mm-hmm. And Cuban started it all a mile from here.
Yeah, he did.
It's amazing.
I'll tell you, the people that when you walked into the offices and the people that you saw waiting to talk to him.
Oh, I'm sure it was a who's
I was
who
like,
of
I walk in one day and it's like, oh, this must be the super terrific happy hour show, because there are 4 Asian guys sitting there waiting to talk to him. And I'm like, all these, who are those guys? Who are those guys? What are they here to talk to him about? It was a constant stream of interesting people who came through there.
And he would talk to all of them?
Pretty much.
I mean, a guy like him could probably, shirk whoever and as many as he wanted.
When you mean that, what do you mean? Just tell them no thank you?
Or just tell them no thank you, or just avoid them in some way.
Yeah. I'm not privy to what they were there to talk to him about. I guess maybe some of them were future investors and that kind of thing. But I'll tell you this. He sold it for $5.7 billion. Yahoo so overpaid for that and ran it into the ground. And they asked Mark after he sold, do you want to take over the broadcast? Yeah, that's all right.
Well, it's like all.
No thanks.
Well, it's like all of them. I mean, there's only a few that control everything now.
Right.
It's kind of like the car industry. In the car industry, I mean, there used to be all kinds of independent car companies, but then Ford and GM, Chrysler killed everybody, and they controlled everything for the past 100 years.
Hey, remember when Yahoo was a thing? I mean, it was. Oh, Google was nothing.
It was a big name. I just never understood what it was. I never understood what you're paying for.
Well, it was a search engine before Google.
Yeah.
And then way down. One of the reasons they went down was they bought us.
I remember at the time that Channel 11 was being rumored to be for sale at the time. And they had it on a value of $765 million. You buy Channel 11. You get their signal, you get all their equipment, you get all their contracts, you get all that. And I'm like, boy, that's almost $1 billion. Geez, that's a lot of money. And then I see where this concept, where they have no buildings, basically. I mean, they have, limited infrastructure, and it sells for $5 billion.
Crazy.
And I'm like,
what are you buying, man?
You could buy this, or you could buy a television station with trucks and satellites and Babe Laufenberg and everybody else that worked at Channel 11 during those days. I never could understand it. And I still don't understand the concept of the internet, of how there's just so much revenue involved.
Yeah.
I mean, who pays it?
I don't know.
Some things are just not for us to understand.
They're not, Ryan. You're exactly right. They're just not.
I fell into this for a while. Speaking of the Wild Wild West, there was a period where buying website names was a massive industry. Where you bought this.com and that.com and then flip them, right?
Yeah.
I dove into that, but I didn't do very well.
You know who owns GregWilliams.com? Gordon Keith.
That's right.
You know who owns MikeRyner.com?
Who?
Did you ever get it from him?
Gordon?
No.
Gordon Keith.
Okay.
No.
Those have limitations on them, though. So, you can only buy it for up to 5 years or something.
Gordo got them when they were free.
Oh. It might still. I'm going to look.
I guarantee you.
Or Groovy, go look.
Statute of limitations have run out on MikeRyner.com.
And if you've got GregWilliams.com, good luck to you. I'm dying for somebody to steal my identity.
Say GregWilliams.com is now Greg Williams Photography.
Yeah.
Let's see what MikeRyner.com is. MikeRyner.com is parked free, courtesy of GoDaddy. So in theory, we can get this.
Ooh, we could buy Mike Rayner.
Really?
Should you and I buy MikeRyner.com And hold it hostage?
Yeah, then throw a bunch
We'll
of,
give them $25.50 for it.
and then throw a bunch of
No,
sponsors
I'm
up
in
there.
for $30, man. I've got to have that over your head.
Yeah, Ryan's, you
I'll
gotta,
spend 30 to have that over your head.
you need to get it and then call Kevin Healy and start getting Reebok product again.
Ooh.
Right? The Ryan's Reebok report.
If only that could work. If only that would work.
I had no idea how lucky I was. Just free Reebok, whatever you want.
No, it was the best.
And then Kevin, like, hey, how come you haven't called me? You need anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need a cap. And he
He-
sends you 50.
Yeah. He and Gary Boney. Gary Boney was another guy that worked over there.
We had it made. Had it so
It's
made.
ours.
And you know what?
You and me,
Who's
Groovy.
got it
You and
better
me.
than us right now?
That's
Nobody.
right.
Nobody. That is it for today. Wally, thank you so
Incredible.
much, man. It's really good to see you. Good to touch base with you, and I'm glad you came through the other side.
Try to get this guy on.
And when you see,
I got a story about him that maybe I'll tell on another
it?
day.
Oh, who's that?
oh,
Thus the hat.
Burton Gilliam?
I know him. I know Burton Gilliam.
Yeah.
That would be a great
Now,
guess.
if you see Richie, tell him I don't hate him. He thinks I do, but I do not hate Richie Witt. Please.
I will.
That's the most requested thing that I get, Rhines,
What's that?
about doing a show. They want to do a show with you, Richie Witt, and RJ Choppy and me.
Really.
And as my friend says, I want to get those three together and just unload on you.
Wait, what happened to RJ Choppy?
He's still around.
Oh, I know,
Greggo-
but like,
Greggo
what'd you
did
do
a
to
show
him?
with him too, and
Yeah, that's the whole deal. Just,
Oh,
Can I swing this story in about him real quick?
Yeah, dude.
Okay. He came down and judged a chili cooking contest at my lofts, right? So when they said they were having the chili cook, I said, I might be able to get you a celebrity judge, right? So I texted him. I said, would you be willing? What would you charge? And he gave me two options. One was his basic fee, to appearance fee. And option two was a ride and all the chili I can put in my pie hole. So we chose option two. So we got him a ride from Allen down to our place. This was in February. He came down and was our celebrity judge. And they were showing Paper Moon and Blazing Saddles on two screens when he was there, right? Mm-hmm. And at one point, they had to pause the movies to make some kind of announcement while he was in there. And they paused it at the part in Blazing Saddles where the closed caption was, "Dock that chink a day's pay for napping on the job."
oh my god,
oh man.
yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just telling you what was in the movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
One more frame, as Mickey says. That's all you had to do.
Exquisite timing. Exquisite.
Might have been on purpose.
There's the Burton story. You guys should have him on.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Shoopy. Thank you, Ashley.
Yay.
Thank you, Mickey. And you, subscribe at Patreon. Got anything to say? Hit us at Your Dark Companion. Where? On Twitter? Everywhere. Your Dark Companion. Let us know what you think about this. All right. Next time is not too far away. So until then.
All right. I'm gonna go take my pants off. Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.